Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian. After a week and a half off, we are back. We are live. We're broadcasting. We're doing a podcast. This is what we do here at What the Tech. Of course, I'm joined by Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
I'm pretty good.
I did not have a name for you this week. I apologize. A lot of the names that I pick for you are pro wrestling nicknames.
Nice.
And a couple...
You're running out of pro wrestlers?
I'm running out of pro wrestlers. And a lot of the people in the chat room think that half of them think I'm insane, and the other half actually get it and they think it's funny. So I did not have a name for you this week. You're just capital T Paul Thurrott.
What?
That's your new name, capital T Paul Thurrott.
That's not a very good name, Andrew.
I don't know. I'll come up with one next week. I promise I'll do better next week.
Yeah, would you?
Yeah.
Would you?
For you first-time listeners, this is a show where we talk about technology, but we don't run down the tech news. We treat it as if we're two guys sitting at a bar, getting drunk, and talking tech, and just complaining.
Which, if we're lucky, we will be doing next week.
Oh, yeah. Well, in a couple days.
This week. Sorry. This week. as soon as 2 days from now.
Yeah, in 2 days, we're going to be, hopefully. Yeah. I'm trying to make it. We're going to have, it's a crazy week this week. Paul was away. You traveled. You were able to leave Boston, which we'll talk about on the post show and the bonus show on What the Talk. I was not lucky enough to get out of New York.
I know, I can't believe it.
And it was devastating. It felt like I lost a relative. I mean, I was that upset because I really needed this break. I really needed this break, and it didn't happen. But we're here, we're live, and we're going to talk about some stuff today. But before we go into it, I want to remind you guys, the new website for Paul Thurrott, Thurrott.com, all things Paul Thurrott is there. You can sign up for a newsletter. You get daily newsletters from Thurrott.com, from Paul Thurrott himself. Every day you're sending out the daily newsletter. And are you still running the contest for the mugs?
Yes.
So every day,
all you have to do is join the newsletter.
Every day they're drawing five winners, and you get the Paul Thurrott mug, the tea mug. I don't know if you have it with you to show.
I do.
You do. So let's show our audience. It's an awesome mug.
But the one that these guys are going to get is the signature edition.
Is it like the Windows 7 Ultimate Edition signed by Steve Ballmer, the Ballmer edition?
Yes, it's exactly like that.
Is it like that?
Yeah.
Does it come in gold with your signature on it?
We haven't figured out what those are yet, but
that's the one that I have. I have the Ballmer edition. That's the one that he yells at you when you're installing and tells you should not format, you should just do an upgrade. That's the edition I have. So sign up, Thurrott.com, sign up for the newsletter there. It's an awesome site, and that's where I get my show notes from it. I've stopped researching. I just go to Thurrott.com and I get all my show notes from there. Paul, how has your week been? And we talk about this all the time. Did you work during your trip?
Yes.
You did. You did not disconnect from this one.
No, I mean, I probably worked half days, I guess. Maybe not even. I don't know. I worked in the morning. We went and did stuff, and then sometimes I did some more stuff at night, but mostly in the morning.
What did you take with you?
Actually, I can't say.
Okay.
But I took a laptop.
Something new.
Of some kind.
Okay.
Kind of a thin and light kind of a deal.
Okay.
I used that exclusively for the trip. I mean, I don't think there was anything too interesting from a technology perspective, except that I brought, because, Puerto Rico's in the United States. And so this opens up some very interesting possibilities, right? You don't have to worry about international data or voice or text. It's all just AT&T, LTE, 5-bar LTE connection was great. We can watch Netflix and stuff like that without any issues. When we go to Europe for 3 weeks, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
We actually didn't use this almost at all, to be honest. We had pretty full days, but you get 2 teenagers, you want to be able, my kids like to sit and relax, which is understandable. So I brought a Miracast dongle, the Microsoft one, because it plugs right into the back.
This is the one that you reviewed a couple months ago on your website.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and it was great. It worked great, and of course you don't have to worry about stuff there. That's what's not. It was nice. I mean, so it's like this place is a lot like anywhere else in the Caribbean or Mexico, but it's the United States, so you have the advantage of all that kind of stuff. The electrical plugs are all the same, the money's the same, all that stuff. It's nice. It's the United States, and but you're also in a place where it's literally 86 to 88 degrees every single day.
Sure.
And it was, so from a technology perspective, it was just, we could use our own phones, which was great. I took just fantastic photos with the 930.
Of course you did, because you have a Windows phone.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Just really nice.
I get so jealous whenever I see your Facebook and whenever you go away, because you take these
Sure.
just stellar shots.
I'm not doing anything. I want to be really clear. I'm not sitting there like a, Ansel Adams doing stuff. It's just like click, go. I mean, one of the best pictures I took was this picture of my daughter walking on the beach, because we were just about to get off of, to head back away from the water. And I looked down and she was walking in front of me, and I could see like kind of her long shadow in the beach. And I said, I got to grab this really quick. And I pulled it out, and it was a little off center and not quite, not how I would have lined it up if I was like trying to take a shot.
See, if that was me with my Android phone,
really nice.
If that was me with my Android phone, I would have screamed, "Jess, stop walking!" And it would have caused a big fight, because she would have had to stand there for like 15 minutes while I play with the exposure and open up the right app to take this photo.
Right.
And that's why I get so jealous when I see those photos. And if you're a photo guy, like I know a lot of people are, and a lot of people don't care for that. That may not be for you, but if you like to take photos and that's what you're buying a phone for, I always tell people go with a Windows phone or an iPhone. I mean, listen, you can go with an iPhone too, and you get a great shot on your first try, but you're going to get a better picture with a Windows phone, in my opinion. And we saw that because you had that side by side between the new iPhone and your Windows phone, and the iPhone really was not up to par with which phone did you test it with? Was it the 1020? When you did that comparison with the iPhone 6 Plus?
No, I don't remember. It probably was the. I don't even remember. It wasn't that long ago. It was probably the 1520.
Okay.
I would imagine, just based on when it was.
Yeah.
But the 1520 and the 930 have the same camera.
Same camera.
Obviously, the 1020 has a higher megapixel camera. But I honestly, if you have a 1520 or a 930 or an Icon, with the performance improvements and the other camera improvements you get in Denim, I actually think this is the better camera now.
The 930.
Any of those three. It's so lightning fast. And the quality is right there. It's got that, cameras have HDR mode. In Lumia Camera now, in this Denim release, they have, what's it called? Rich Capture, which is basically auto HDR plus, I'm forgetting, auto.
Like saturation and contrast manipulation.
Geez, what's the word? Not white balance, but I forget. I'm sorry. Anyway, it's a bunch of auto modes. And it will auto flash if you have flash enabled. And what it does is it basically examines the scene every time you take a photo, and it gives you that best possible shot. And you can go back after the fact and change all of the effects. So you've got this like what is sort of like a digital master that you can really mess with if you want. So if you get this thing, it's a little too HDR, it's got that kind of super high contrast mode, and you don't want that, you can go back and you can fix it. And I just find this thing to be amazing. And people are, iPhone 6, yeah, the iPhone 6 camera is great. This one's better.
I'm going to bring something up. And you tell me, by the way, if I run away for a couple seconds, I'm going to say, Paul, I got a package. I have to sign for something. And I'm being sent something I've signed an NDA for. And I have to get this, because if I don't, it's going to be the second day that I miss it. So I'm gonna yell and scream, and I'm going to flare my arms up and down and run out the door and just sign for this thing. And you can take over when that happens.
Okay.
Something that I've noticed with my Android, with both my Android phones and my wife's iPhone, is that they're not that smart when it comes to exposure. And this is a problem with a lot of phones, except for the Windows phones that I've used. If you're taking a photo and let's say you're centering, you're tapping on where to focus in on. If there is light coming in from behind, it's not as intelligent as you would expect it to be to kind of dim it properly. The only way I'm able to dim it to a level that I kind of like the exposure at is if I tap on the brightest area. But then you're kind of risking it getting really dark.
Sure.
Unless you have unless you set the exposure manually, which I have an app to do that. But nobody wants to really do that. Nobody wants to sit there and fiddle around with the exposure settings when you could just click on something.
Obviously, there's a class of people who are camera enthusiasts or
and they'll love that
photography
stuff.
enthusiasts, and And you know, what iPhone obviously is amazing. There's lenses and things you can buy. There's all this great neat stuff. On Windows Phone, you know, Nokia camera before Lumia camera now, you can put it on full blown manual mode. You can slide the exposure and the white balance and all these other if you want to, you know. But I think, you know, for the 99.9% of the population that doesn't understand any of that stuff or care one way or the other, they just want good pictures. I think the full automatic stuff is more important. iPhone does a good job of that. But the thing I'm noticing with the Windows Phone here now with the, you know, again, you need a high-end Windows Phone, you need the latest version of the software. You can really do stuff with the photos and with the videos after the fact. You know, for example, you can take a 4K video with the camera I have, the phone I have, and then you can go in the software, in the camera software that's built into the phone, and you can step through it frame by frame. You can obviously scroll faster, but you can go frame by frame, and you can pull out individual frames as 8-megapixel photos, and they're crystal clear. They're wonderful.
When we started doing the show together like 3 years ago, we always spoke about, you know, do you still need a camera with you, right? Like, and you travel. So, and I think we've always said, like, well, if it's like a big trip, maybe I'll take. Maybe I'll take
at the time. I don't remember what year it was, but I bet when we first started talking about that, the answer was yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take a DSLR with me because I want to get these shots. I want it to be as good as possible. I want to get, because you're an enthusiast, and you know, I'm like that too. I want the best possible outcome for these photos. When's the last time you brought a DSLR with you somewhere? Or, I mean, even a point
it's been, no, I can tell you exactly when it was, because it would have been 2012. That summer we brought a camera.
And that was the last time.
Yeah, because in 2013 I had the Lumia 1020. And actually, I think that summer we brought a camera just in case, because we weren't really sure, you know, if it was going to work. And it was, the 1020 was fantastic. And last summer I used the 1520. This summer, you know, we don't know yet. But I mean, the 930 would be awesome. It was great this past week. I guess what I would say, though, is that's for snapshots. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to take a picture of the moon and see all the little craters and things like that, you're not going to do that with a smartphone.
Absolutely,
standing there, you know.
And I'm not saying it's as good. I'm saying it's good enough for most people.
No, right. So I've personally identified two things that I can't say that I need them exactly, but I miss. And so one of the things I really liked with a digital camera was that the last few that I owned had very amazing optical zooms, like 25x, and they were like spy cameras. And there's some neat things you can do with that kind of thing when you're in a big city like Paris or whatever, and you want to take a shot from the top of a building or whatever. That can be cool, and I kind of miss that. Honestly, the number of times you need that is not all that high, but I miss it. The other thing that you can't do with a smartphone, at least not a stock smartphone, is take like macro photos. And I actually bought a lens I bought the iPhone version of it, but they have them for Samsung phones.
I have one of those too, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I did it is, if you think about, like, for example, I'd only put one of them on the website because they didn't come out very good. But if you think about something like as a circuit board, right, like a Raspberry Pi 2, you know, you want to take a picture of this thing, and you want to use like a macro lens and really get in there and have
see
all
the
detail.
writing on the chips, yeah.
And so I took a bunch. I used that. I used that for that, just to see how that would come out. Because obviously, if you have a digital SLR, you could buy a lens, which would be fairly expensive for that kind of thing. Not to mention the cost of the camera itself. I'm not 100% happy with the results. I have hardware things I want to do. I'm going to do series on upgrading computers, building computers, things like this. This is more work related, but I would like a macro lens capability, and so I'll experiment more with this one.
You know what I was thinking? And this is such a big business, right? Because I bought a bunch of these lenses for people that I know that like to take photos. Like, I got it for my brother, I got it for Jess, I got one for me, and they're not that great, right? They're not, okay, they work, but they're not that great. Do you see a time coming where this is going to be the answer, where, you know, iPhone is going to have their own attachments and they're going to have these lenses that are going to be, you know, decent quality? Well, or even, I mean, Windows Phone. I mean, any of these manufacturers could start making their own.
Yeah. This is a tough call, because I guess on the one hand you could say, like, what would be the reason this would happen? Like, why would you need such a thing, right? So you're going to go on a big trip, right? And the choices are, I could use my iPhone with a bunch of lens attachments to achieve telephoto and, optical zooming capabilities or whatever, wide angle, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. Honestly, I think the iPhone 6, iPhone 5 on would probably be pretty great for that kind of picture, but whatever. But then, you're also using your phone all day long. And so you want to have like some way to charge the thing, or maybe a battery sleeve. And like at the end of the day, you kind of bring in all this stuff. And so then you say, well, okay, rather than do all that, you could buy, I'm sure, between $100 and $200 right now, an absolutely top shelf portable digital camera with major optical zoom, its own battery, an SD card that could store hundreds and hundreds of photos. I mean, at that point, it's like, well, why not just carry that thing? Like, just use your phone for a phone, and you can go back and forth on it. I mean, we were talking a few minutes ago about back when we started doing this, and I would go on a trip, and I'd have my phone, which would take crappy pictures, and I would have this camera, which would take really nice pictures. But then I would want to share a picture because I'm out in the world, like I'm in Paris. Like, look, this is the Eiffel Tower, So you take a bunch of pictures with your camera, but then you take one crappy picture with your phone, and then you share that on Facebook or something. You're like, look, I'm in Paris. You know what I mean? But like that picture is not, it's like a separate thing from your photos, Whereas like the last couple of years when we've gone away, those pictures I take on my phone, I'll share one of them to Facebook while I'm there. But when I go back to the apartment or the house or whatever at the end of the day, I'll offload them to my computer, and maybe I'll share a batch of them. Like, here's the day we had. There's only one set of photos now, like you just have this one thing, you know what I mean? It's not a bunch of different things. And so there's no right answer. I mean, other than to say that the camera technology in phones and the battery technology in phones will eventually improve. And I think we're there for most people, but it will eventually improve to the point where it just doesn't matter anymore. You just use the one thing. Most people.
I mean, I'm willing to bet that the argument could be said that 2 years ago was just good enough for most people. The iPhone 4S's camera is just good enough for most people.
Okay. By the way, that's possibly true. I have a hard time remembering years. Before airfare got really expensive, my wife and I used to go to Paris, especially, but let's say Europe separately. Like we'd go on like kind of long weekend trips and things, and it's just so prohibitively expensive to do that. But we used to go and you'd spend $300 or $400 on a ticket. $500 maybe. Eventually it was $700. Now it's $1,500. You're not going to spend $1,500 on a ticket to be in Paris for 2.5 days and be exhausted. But I remember one winter I had an iPhone 3 something, like a 3G. What were they called? 3GS or 3.
What year is this?
Well, I don't know. That's what I don't remember is the year. But I remember we went in the winter, and it was like January, and the tickets. That's why the tickets were so cheap. And my wife was saying, well, what if what if it rains every day we're there? And I said, then we're going to be in Paris in the rain. Who cares? It's going to be great. And it was like gloomy and dark, and it rained the whole time. And we spent a lot of time scurrying from cafe to cafe in the rain. And we had a great time, but I decided I'm going to experiment. This was really early on. I'm not going to bring a camera. I'm just going to take pictures on the iPhone, Those are the worst pictures I've ever taken in my life of anything. They're abysmal. They're just because it was dark and dreary, and the camera wasn't that good, and it was just and it was like the one time we went away where I was like, I don't really, it's like I can't really share anything. Like there's nothing here. I should go find them. They're terrible, but there's nothing. It's just it's like you can sort of tell you're in Paris. It's dark.
Just grainy.
It's grainy. They're just terrible. They're terrible pictures.
I'm looking at the chat room. I just asked them a question. I said, do you guys bring a camera when you travel?
Yeah.
Ichu says no, just my icon. WP Sensei says 1520. He brings his 1520. So I mean, this is most people, and I guarantee
1520 would be great.
Yeah. It's interesting. I always like that discussion because I'm curious to see when it ends. When people are not. When are these cameras gonna be at the level of wow, that's stellar? I mean, we're almost there. I mean, if you gimmick it up a little bit, you could really make a photo look great. But
right,
it's still not a DSLR, and it probably won't be for a while. But it's coming close.
For many people. By the way, I found the pictures. It was. January 2008.
So that was
they're just terrible.
Was that a 3GS or 3G in 2008?
I don't remember. That's
probably
what I don't
3G.
Remember. It was 3G, maybe whatever. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, wait, 2008. I mean, didn't the iPhone just come out in 2007?
2007, yeah.
So
but remember the 3G. But the 3G came out quick. No.
Yeah, this must have been. It might just be the iPhone.
Wow.
They're square. They're so grainy and dark and terrible. This is so awful. It's really well. Funny. Anyway, I tried.
Yeah.
You know, that's what happens. You know, when we kind of play with technology and we're kind of out there a little earlier than, you know, maybe is wise.
Right before I started doing GFQ, I bought a DSLR and I bought a really good point and shoot. And I bought just a really good point and shoot. Mm-hmm. And we never used any of it. Yeah. It just sat there. I have a great Nikon D90 and I got a bunch of Canon point and shoots. Never use it. It's just sitting here. And they're still great cameras, you know? You could get a great photo with them.
Right. I mean, sure. I know that whatever the last digital camera I used, whatever it was, you know, Panasonic something, widescreen, you know, optical zoom of something 24x or more. I don't remember anymore. I'm sure today that camera would take fantastic photos that in many ways exceed the capabilities of what I'm doing now, even on the Lumias that I have. But, you know, it's like another thing to carry around and you're not online with it. Like I'm not going to, you know, I can't send stuff off to Facebook or whatever, you know, it's just not worth it.
So I want to talk about Lenovo, but before we do, I want to thank everybody that's watching right now on gfqlive.tv, or if you're downloading the podcast, thank you. Subscribe to us. It helps us out whenever you subscribe. But if you want bonus content, we do a little thing called What the Talk. We record it live after What the Tech each and every week here on the GFQ Network, and we post it exclusively on patreon.com/whatthetech. If you want to join it, you want to get access to this, you know, it's a lot of fun. We just BS for a couple minutes, maybe sometimes 15, sometimes 20, sometimes you go an hour. It depends on the day and our mood. And you guys get access to that. And all you got to do, you could support us by going to patreon.com/whatthetech. You could tip us whatever you want to tip us. We accept a quarter, 25 cents per show, 15 cents per show. Some people are doing $1 per show. I appreciate everything that we're getting. And we're trying to work on a goal because a lot of people want access to this and a lot of people want it to be on an RSS. It is almost impossible for us to do it because we're uploading it to YouTube and posting it on Patreon. So if we hit a certain number per episode, I think we're going to release it just in general for the RSS, and whoever wants, you know, more people are going to listen to it. And if you like it, you tip us a little bit more. I haven't figured out the number. I haven't figured out the day. I haven't done any of that yet because it's been so crazy so far this year. But that's something we're looking to do. Go to patreon.com/whatthetech. You can support us there. And it helps us out, guys. So, and I want to thank everybody that's doing it and everybody that's watching right now. Paul, let's talk about the Lenovo issue. Okay. I'm going to say something and probably people are going to be annoyed. I don't see it as big of an issue because I think everybody's doing this. Apple does this, something very similar. Lenovo's doing it. And
wait. Yeah. Hold on. What do you mean Apple does this? What is Apple?
There was a story I read. Mm-hmm. And essentially, Apple kind of does the same exact thing where user feedback is collected. It was an entire article on it. I just read it. And it's kind of similar. I mean, it's kind of similar because it'll be able to kind of determine what you... I gotta find the article now.
Okay.
But I think more people are doing this than just Lenovo. And there has been history in the PC world that this has happened a couple of times. I mean, almost every PC manufacturer has done this at some point.
Well, we got a Samsung TV that's recording your conversations. You know, there are antivirus packages that are using the same kind of man-in-the-middle attack to find malware. You know, which is not really that safe.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying there's more to this than Lenovo. It's not just Lenovo.
No. And no, I mean, to me, the bigger issue is, you know, is the malware. I'm sorry, is the crapware.
Yeah.
It's just this junk. You know, these guys have this kind of, it's not, you know what? It's not just a perceived revenue stream, although, as I think I've said in the past, and I've certainly been told this by various people who work for PC makers, the revenue that they make from this stuff actually doesn't work out.
From the
this
crapware.
Isn't like make or break between a PC being successful and not being successful.
Because that's been the argument, right? They've always said, well...
Yeah, that was always the excuse, you know? It's not really like that. In fact... If you were to talk, well, because I have, I mean, so what they've told me, and I can't really tell who, I can't tell you who told me this because obviously this was said on the QT, but the reason that PC makers put crapware on their computers is to differentiate them from other computers. They're actually, they always use the same language. They're trying to make a better experience for the customer. And they actually really are trying to do that.
I have the quote here, if you want me to say it.
Yeah.
Superfish was previously included on some customer notebook products shipped between September 2014 and February 2015 to assist customers with discovering products similar to what they are viewing.
Right. And by the way, why? I mean, in other words, think about what crapware is in general, and then we'll express it with this thing specifically. You're trying to differentiate. You want your PC not to be stock Windows, because stock Windows is every PC, and we have to have some differentiation.
You got to have a selling point. You got
well, obviously the hardware itself is a selling point, but
it's the QVC mentality, right? Like you buy it, you're getting $3,000 worth of applications, absolutely for free.
And by the way, there is a small percentage of the population that loves crapware for this very reason. They feel like they're getting something extra. But I mean, look, PC makers are like wireless carriers. They don't want to be the dumb thing that gets you there. They want you to be part of the experience. So look, they're stuck. It's commodity hardware. It's Intel chipsets. It's Windows software. They want to be part of it. They shouldn't be. They're terrible at it. It's not what the strengths are, but they want to, they want you to love Lenovo. They want you to love Dell or whatever the company is. Yeah. Ultimately, though, if you think about it in general, what they're really doing is fixing a problem that does not exist with Windows.
Yeah.
It does not exist. If they just left Windows alone, people would like it better. They're solving a problem that doesn't exist. So let's look at this software in particular, right? What's the problem they're solving with this? They're going to replace the ads that are already on the web with new ads that they feel will be more relevant to you.
Yeah, so, I mean...
in other words, now the web is broke.
It's far more invasive than what other PC info
Okay,
collection.
But you understand, it's just an extension of the same philosophy.
It's the same philosophy,
right?
yeah.
It's not wrong-headed. It's sad because, I really do believe they're trying to do the right thing. But they just, it's like they keep punching themselves in the face. It's sad. It's just sad. And Lenovo, honestly, look, we have to take them to town and to task for this. But like you said, they are no worse than anyone else. There's nothing worse than buying a new PC, and it doesn't matter if it's a $200 HP Stream or a $1,000, whatever, an $1,800 Samsung.
Yeah.
I cannot stand having to deal with crap that was put on there for possibly good reasons, but not what I want.
But you did bring up an interesting point in this. There is
finally.
Jeez, I just said
eventually.
I just said that this is no big deal, and I didn't really mean it that way. Let me tell you, I've said a lot of stuff. That's going to be the one thing that everybody focuses on for this episode. Andrew said this is not. They're stealing your information. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's more to it than just Lenovo. A lot of people are doing this. Like, I'll give an example. I have relatives that buy computers constantly, and they love this stuff. You're absolutely right. They love the crapware. They love the HP backup software that's provided. They love the antivirus that's not free, that's provided. They love the fact that Office is installed on this computer and it's a trial. They want that. And I know people that don't care for Office. They don't want the auto backup stuff. They don't want Roxio, Easy CD Creator, or whatever garbage they're putting on there.
Right.
It's a half and half thing. I think we are more inclined to say, no, I just wanted bare bones. Well, other people may look at this and say, wow, I could duplicate my CDs if I wanted to, and I could back everything up, and I could, I have a photo editing software on here.
I look, most of these people probably have no idea how any of this stuff works, but what they're thinking is, you never know, I might need this.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with software for software's sake. It's sort of like the argument about people who kind of micromanage their computers, and they're like, I don't like all the software running in the background. It's taking up resources. What taking up resources? It's why do you have all that RAM? Of course, it's what do you want it just sitting there for some future event? I mean, that the system is sophisticated enough that when that future event arrives, it will handle that. I mean,
how many processes are you running? 140?
No, you're gonna have to cut that down. Like, why? What do you mean?
I'm one of those people, Paul. Under 75. Yeah. If I see over 75, I lose my mind. Listen, I think a lot of this was true
no, it's like on a,
years
like,
ago.
listen,
But
do you know people in smartphones who like sit there and kill processes? Like actually like bring up that screen like, nope,
yeah,
nope, nope,
Android
nope,
users,
nope.
people who
Oh
are
my
using
God.
Android.
That's sad.
I have to do that constantly.
Really?
Because then your battery dies.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I'm right. I'm sorry. I should say
Right?
there are certain, obviously, like if you're running a map application, that's a good example. Sometimes when you might have to do that.
There's so much
You know what
here
I'm saying?
with
I'm
this.
saying compulsively, like just closing stuff, you know?
Like I had an HP. I got to remember what this was. My brother bought an HP a couple years ago, and you know, the first thing I do, it was on a gateway. I just start uninstalling all the garbage, just one by one. And I actually had an application that would not uninstall from Windows, like the Windows control panel. I had to get a third-party uninstaller to uninstall that thing.
Right.
And I could think, I'm like, man, that's such a crappy thing to do.
The Superfish thing was particularly bad because you could uninstall it.
And it's still, yeah.
And it was still, the thing
still
that
there.
made your system vulnerable was still embedded in the computer, you know?
So they issued an apology, obviously, and you know they said, "Well, we're sorry for this." How was it discovered? How did this happen for so long, where somebody was like, "Wait a minute, there's something going on"?
So first of all, users who got this stuff on computers started complaining about it immediately. So as soon as this stuff started shipping last September, people were complaining to Lenovo. Lenovo ignored them the whole time. And then a security researcher got a Dell. Actually, I think it might have been a Yoga 3 Pro, which is one of the ones I just reviewed, which I really liked, but I pointed out the incredible crapware on it, where she saw some crazy ads and started investigating the system and realized, you know, what was happening. And she kind of called it out. The mainstream media, you know, latched onto it. And then, you know, they were basically outed and publicly shamed. And so, you know, in their words, they moved quickly and decisively. I mean, you know, they did not. In fact, I don't remember exactly how I wrote this, but it was like the seven stages of grief, you know, where, you know, the first thing, it's not a problem. It's not, okay, well, you know, maybe we'll ask the people that made it, we'll fix it. Don't worry about it. Okay, actually, maybe it is bad. Okay, sorry. And then they kind of went through this kind of series of just, you know, gesticulations, with, you know, which is too bad because Lenovo is the world's biggest maker of PCs. They're an excellent company. They're actually an excellent company.
I mean, great hardware.
Yep, they make ThinkPads, which, by the way, never had this stuff on. This was only on the consumer stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They make fantastic hardware, not just portable computers. They make phones, which we don't have here in the United States, but we will soon. They're an excellent company. And so in some ways, it's sad for this to happen. But you know what? HP is an excellent company, and Dell is an excellent company. And these companies also ship a bunch of crap on their computers. So, you know, whatever. I mean, I happen to like these guys, and I like their stuff. But, you know, maybe this will prod the industry to change.
Well, you said something. You said that they don't make as much money as we would imagine from putting all this bloatware on.
This is not, this is the crapware is no longer the difference between PC is profitable or isn't profitable. This has been likened to me by more than one person on the inside of this situation as, you know, like a crack addict. They think they can stop anytime. They don't think it's a problem. They don't understand what all the uproar is about, and they can't stop doing it. They just can't stop. It's this, they just, you know.
Why?
By the way, Microsoft for years, has been showing them again and again and again, look what you can do if you just stop doing what you're doing. Like, look how much faster your computer will boot, how much faster it will shut down, go to sleep, wake up, how much faster apps will launch, how much, you know, it just, how much cleaner the system is, how much better it is over time, how it doesn't degrade in quality. Years and years and years. And so Microsoft's response to this stuff, they actually, by the way, Lenovo was one of the early adopters. There was a program called Velocity. It's probably the Windows 7 timeframe. And Lenovo latched onto it. And it allowed Lenovo's computers to boot in like single-digit seconds, which was unheard of in those days, versus 14, 21, 28 seconds or whatever it was for other computers. Finally, they did signature PCs, of course, which are fantastic, crapware free PCs. And this is Microsoft literally taking a PC out of the box, wiping it down, cleaning it up, putting it back on. You know, they create more sophisticated images, but getting rid of everything that is crap. And then, of course, they went to the Surface route, which is, you know, Surface computers are by definition a signature PC experience.
And that's exactly what Microsoft has wanted for the last, you know, 2 decades.
Yes. Yeah. Now, obviously, the Surface thing has really, really pissed off the PC makers, but, you know, they kind of had it coming. I mean, you know, I understand their reaction. I get it. If they would agree to ship signature PCs, I think Microsoft could agree never to make another Surface. And
But it was necessary because and this is, I mean, I talk about the trackpad all the time. It's a joke, but
yeah,
for years, this is something that I've complained about. And that's really one of the main, it's a significant reason why I'm not using a PC and why I went to Mac, because I was tired of my hands cramping from using the trackpad because it wasn't working right. Now, because Microsoft put out the Surface, and you know, they put out the Signature series, and they have higher end machines that are running, you know, the way that it should be ran.
Low end machines, by the way.
And now the low end machines have adapted because of Windows 8. Because guess what? There's a lot of gesturing in Windows 8.
Well, and by the way, there's also machines that only have 1 gig of RAM and 16 gigs of onboard storage. And on such a machine, not having any crap on there actually is even more significant, you know. And so you could buy something like an HP Stream 7, which is pretty much the lowest end of low end tablets. I think they're normally $99. They were recently on sale. I'm not sure if it's still the case, for like $79. But you buy that thing from the Microsoft store, you get the Signature PC version, which is, of course, is what you want for that kind of computer. So I don't know. I made the big stink back in January when Satya Nadella got up and said, you know, we want people to love Windows. We don't want them just to need Windows. And I wrote that article where I was like, sorry, but nobody's ever going to love Windows until you get on top of this problem. You know, you ship a product that is pristine and clean and works well, and that it is completely destroyed by these people who are ostensibly your partners. And that the thing that people get, the customers, is completely compromised from day one, and they hate Windows, even though it's not Windows' fault.
It's not Windows. I mean, and that's always a story. That's always the story with Windows. Apple, luckily for them, they control their hardware, so they will never have that problem. Nobody will say, I hate Apple. I hate Apple because, you know, whatever. Because
stupid iLife. I'm so tired of iLife.
I'm sick of iLife.
I hate DVDs.
You know what? I am sick of iLife. I'm sick
Actually,
of.
Does iLife even come with a computer? I don't know.
It's still. I mean, they're still supporting iPhoto.
Sure.
Right, because they haven't released their photo app yet. It's in the beta for the next version, but the photo app doesn't exist yet. But when that is the fundamental difference why public perception of Macs is far better than Windows. Nobody, people aren't buying.
To be fair, it's not just perception. There is an inherent advantage when you control the entire.
Yeah, and you're making better hardware, obviously. I mean, you're not.
No. By the way, not necessarily even making better hardware, but you, in other words, Apple has this limited set of hardware platforms that they need to support with drivers. The drivers are still coming from Intel or whatever. I mean, it's still, you know, you're still dealing with the same inherent hardware components. But because you're only working with a limited range of possibilities, those things by nature can be more stable. You know, PCs, there's an infinite range of configurations. It's harder. Even within a single PC maker, try to figure out every model of PC that just HP makes. They must make 200 times as many computers as Apple does.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, computer models.
And they got to support all those models, and they got to support the drivers, and they got to do BIOS
updates. They're all a little
updates.
different, and you know, it's hard.
There
is some advantage to the Apple model.
No, there's a tremendous advantage, but you also have to talk about, you know, when I buy a $500 Lenovo, and it's not, you know, I have a trackpad. By
the way, that's one of the Apple disadvantages. You can buy a $500 Lenovo.
You can, I mean, that is a disadvantage.
$500 Mac.
That's a disadvantage and possibly an advantage because when you talk about public perception, most people are not going and buying the $1,200 laptop. They're buying whatever was on sale. They're buying, you know, the $599, $499 laptop, and you're using it. It's not going to be the same experience as using a $1,200 laptop. So when you talk about public perception, when people are like, "Oh, Windows sucks," no, it's the lower end machine that you bought that may have whatever issue, and that's why it sucks. And it's the bloatware that makes it suck, and that's why it's slow. And then someone goes and buys a Mac, and like, "Oh my God, the Macs are so much better because it's so much faster, and look how great it is." Well, yeah, you just paid $500 more than you would have if you had spent $1,200.
I mean, it's battery life, you know, is a big deal. We still don't see very many Windows computers that can achieve the type of battery life you see on a Mac, although that's finally starting to change. Yeah. But I suspect you could find a quote from me from 10 years ago where I said exactly the same thing. But, you know, like the XPS 13, some other machines that are coming down the line are going to offer those kind of double-digit hours, you know, battery life, which everyone seems to want for some reason, even though most of us are not really on intercontinental flights all day long.
Macs are pretty PCs. It's an Intel chip. There's nothing special. They're using NVIDIA cards.
Yeah.
They're using,
same stuff.
There's
no special Apple hardware in a Mac. There's none.
There's no
There's
secret
not a
sauce.
single hardware component in that machine that's Mac. That's,
you could essentially buy the same exact laptop somewhere. I'm sure somebody, Asus or somebody's making it with the exact components.
Listen, this has been debated for decades now, but I mean, and it's obviously more relevant since they switched to Intel. But PC makers, we're shooting for volume over quality, like quantity over quality, right? Yeah. And so you get into these weird situations where you have a laptop that has 3 USB ports. And one of them is USB 3. One of them is USB 3 with like device charging capabilities when the computer's offline. And the other one is USB 2. And it's like, guys, seriously.
Why?
So Apple's deal is like, they're all USB 3. And I don't know about the charging bit.
And you got Thunderbolt on this thing.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, the point is they don't dick around with stuff like that. And it's a single example, but that's the type of thing you're not going to get at the low end of the spectrum. You're going to get it at the, Apple's a premium brand. So you do pay more and you get more, I guess, in this case. But there's a charge for that. I mean, the problem is if they added that to a $300 or $400, $500, whatever, HP laptop of some kind, it would be more expensive because it wouldn't just be that thing. Like it's not just that one thing. Like maybe we have to replace some plastic components with some metal components. Maybe we need to, whatever it is. There's all this stuff. Like eventually, if you're just going to copy the MacBook Air, it's not going to cost $500.
I also think another problem.
You can't make that computer for $500.
No, it's impossible. And listen, there are MacBook clones out there, and you know what? You could go up to $800 on these. The lowest end that I would probably find is an $800, $799. Asus that kind of looks like a Mac, or an HP that kind of looks like a Mac.
Yeah, right. And those are nice machines. I mean, you can get an Asus, a Samsung. There are some HPs as well that have the kind of MacBook Air kind of fit and finish look, even look and feel, thinness, that kind of stuff. I don't look. It's never going to be the same. There's no way. It's like trying to ask GM to be BMW. Yeah. They're going to have some BMW class vehicles. Would you pick a Cadillac, whatever it is, I don't know what they're called, CRT or whatever they're called, over some BMW 3 Series? Yeah, if you were a crazy person. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, some people, they might look at that and say, yeah, this is the car for me. I like this. I like how this thing is made or looks or whatever it is. And that's PCs. I mean,
I also think the PC market has a branding issue where, and this has driven me nuts for the longest time. Like you said, less is more sometimes, but not in the PC world because more is more. Sure. And they think let's pump out 50 different versions of the same exact computer and push it out, and we'll have something for everybody.
Let's give them names like XP-L105.S
US. Elite. That's it.
Right.
And this is
a lightning bolt on there.
Yeah, this is a huge issue. So, great example. My friend has a Toshiba satellite. I was helping him out getting the drivers. I had to flip this thing upside down to find out which version he has. And there's like the S model and the A model and the E model. And they only have drivers for the S and not the E.
Yeah.
Because the E was a special one they sold in Walmart. Right. That drives me freaking insane. That should not exist. You know what? They should have an entry level, a mid-range, and a luxury level, like the auto industry.
So the auto industry has also gone off the deep end with this stuff. In fact,
they have.
As an example, BMW used to. It was. I think we've talked about this.
A 3, a 5, and a 7
series.
Yeah.
Now there's
a 1
207 versions. I mean, it's crazy. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds on that one, but yeah. I mean,
I should know what I'm buying.
This is the problem with the world we live in. Like, in other words, let's say you're General Mills and you make Cheerios. Cheerios is the biggest success story in the world, and you're making lots of money. Eventually, though, to keep growing, you have to do other stuff. And so in the beginning, I don't know that Cheerios was the first one they made, but let's just pretend it was. They will start making other cereals. They'll make cereals that are sort of like Cheerios. There'll be flakes and there'll be, whatever. Yeah. Eventually, they'll add sugar to them and they'll make sugared cereals and whatever cereals. But at some point, General Mills is going to jump the shark. And the way they jump the shark is They get into other businesses that have nothing to do with cereal. Breakfast bars, which are sort of like cereal, English muffins maybe, lunch foods, it kind of expands out. And eventually what you realize is they're selling cigarettes, or they make alcohol, or or they're into farming equipment or something. And it's like, what's happened here? And it's because things need to grow and grow and grow and grow. And that's, business. And these PC companies, if you look at, I'm sure when Dell's, if you looked at a Dell PC lineup from the early 1990s, they probably had 3 models. If you go to Dell's website today, you're like, what? And they sell things that are sort of familiar, projectors and printers and servers and whatever. But there's a million of these things.
Windows 10 Technical PU, I guess, says, so Andrew wants the PC OEM market to completely kill its business model. Yes.
Yes.
That is exactly what I want them to do.
Thank you. Thank you for cutting to the chase.
You know who does it really well? Like Samsung, for example. Another one, 5,000 TVs. I have no idea what my LN model is. I have the LN6599282. You know who does it really well? Vizio. They got the E, they got the M, and they got the P. The P is the 4K, the M is their higher end regular, and the E is their economy class. I know exactly what I'm buying, and every year
they're new. But they're new.
Yeah.
Vizio, Vizio is the Korean car company in this equation, right? When Hyundai dates back to the 80s, but Kia or I can't think of any other car company, whatever. Any Korean car company, when they break out into the world, they have 3 models. I bet Hyundai, if you looked at Hyundai's website today, they probably have 200 cars. I don't know what they do.
Yeah, listen, I'm not saying their business model's not working. I'm saying you could simplify it a little bit, and you can make it make sense for the average person when they walk into a store to know what model is what.
I just think these companies and the people who work there lose sight of what is the important stuff.
Because there's so much. There's so much.
We think of these things as traditional, and they're not traditions. They're just things that we do, and we forget why. And what do we do? What happened? I mean, and by the way, to give HP some credit, I mean, one of the things that they've done with the stream stuff is really rethink the low end of the market. And it happened right around the same time that Microsoft did their $0 licensing. They were like, okay, look, we're going to be playing on an even playing field with everyone else in the market. You're going to see a lot of crap. How nice can we make these things? Yeah. There's some hits and some misses, right? Those Stream laptops are beautiful. The Stream tablets, they're okay. I mean, and part of that is not HP's fault. It's just Windows tablets, But for every $60 CVS brand, stupid Android tablet, there's like a $60 to $80, $100 Windows tablet from HP or someone else, maybe. And Winbook is another good example. Like really, like high quality for what you paid, like a good value. Like those things exist. Hopefully, those things will kill off the crap. And that's, by the way, to bring it back to the Lenovo thing, is what makes the Superfish thing so freaking irritating, because those guys make really good computers.
They make great stuff.
And they've completely destroyed their brand by doing this. There are people who don't know anything about anything that are going to walk into a Best Buy 6 months or a year from now looking for some laptop, and it will be some Lenovo branded something they've never heard of, and they'll say, wait, wasn't this the company that did something really bad? Let's look at the other one. And they'll just move on. They won't remember what it was. It won't matter that it was fixed. That is now in their head.
It's fascinating.
It's so dumb.
Yeah. It's. I mean, we could talk about this for days. I did want to touch on one more thing before we wrap up What the Tech and we go into What the Talk. I wanted to ask you a couple questions about the Xbox One developer information. That they're going to open up the SDK pretty much for anybody to develop an app for.
I don't know why this took so long. This was rumored. I mean,
is it confirmed 100%? I mean, we've been talking about this for like 2 years now, but is this 100% confirmed? I saw that Tom Warren put it on The Verge.
We've got the game developer thing coming up, and obviously E3 is in mid-year, but I think it's basically the same rumors coming back again. But I'm amazed this hasn't happened yet. I think with Windows 10, they've very explicitly included Xbox One in the list of things that are going to get it. It's like Internet of Things, phones, tablets, computers, these big screen things. Oh, and Xbox One, by the way. This is the right time to do it, because you're going to be able to go into Visual Studio, create apps that will run on that platform. And that's an amazing change. Not that you couldn't do it before if you were on the developer program, but that it would just be available to anyone.
I mean, this is going with the same mentality where, you make one app, and then in Visual Studio, You click
Yeah.
whatever, you click Xbox, and you click,
Yep.
phone, and you click tablet, and it's going to be easier. But what was the reasoning for not doing this from the beginning? Did they have this in the long-term vision of the
Yeah.
platform, and they were like, let's wait, let's hold it until we open this up for everybody on the PC side, or was
Yeah.
it that they wanted it to be an exclusivity thing, which that's Xbox's thing. They were exclusive because in order to get these apps, you had to pay
Right.
for Xbox Live Gold in order to get
Sure.
Netflix and stuff. So it was, what was the words that they used? It was a premium service.
Right.
It was a premium device, and that's why you have to pay to get Netflix. With this totally...
Good strategy.
Yeah. Rob Greenlee, actually, in our chat says, will not be a totally open app store.
There you go. And Rob would know, by the way.
Yeah.
You know Rob.
And this is, I think, the last time I spoke to Rob 2 years ago. This is what we discussed, actually. I was actually yelling and screaming about, well, how can I, what do you have to do to get an app on there? It was very expensive to develop for. I mean, I've heard numbers, and it's insane. Yeah. But opening it up this way, does that help the platform? Does it hurt it?
There are market forces that are occurring now that are changing the equation, I think, on Xbox One, right? One is that I don't see anything changing, but unless something changes, they're not winning this generation, right? They're losing every single month to PS4. So that's happening. They've been forced to lower the price on it a lot earlier than they would have wanted to. So they're losing money on the units sold or making a lot less than they would have otherwise. And so this thing is not working out economically the way they wanted it to. And now Windows 10 is happening. And this is their developer story. This universal app platform is how they, hello, developers. It's not just iOS and Android. How do we get those guys over here? Windows is not very exciting to people right now in the mobile space. Xbox still has that kind of patina of interest. It's exciting and different, and it's a legitimate living room contender. And so I think those things combined are what's going to make it happen. Before Windows 8 shipped, which was before the Xbox One shipped, Microsoft understood that thing was going to be a frickin' disaster. And so the original plan on the Xbox One was they were really going to push the fact that this thing was Windows 8, but then they didn't really want to highlight that very much, did they? And there was some talk about Hyper-V and stuff like that instead. But it's Windows. It's Windows is what it is. It's Windows 8 really. It's not like the Windows 8 you get on a PC, but it's it's a Windows core. And being able to tell that story now with Windows 10 and not be embarrassed by it, I think kind of opens this thing up a little bit as well. And I don't think it's anything about Xbox One that's evolved per se. It's just that the market has changed, and I think now this is a good story for them to tell. And if they can get people not just writing apps for Xbox One, writing games, obviously, but porting apps or writing apps that run across the board, write apps that are not just the same. In other words, you write some app like the RSS reader app that everyone writes. And so you have a version for phone, you get a version for tablets, you can have it on the PC or the web or whatever. And now you can have it on Xbox One. That's sort of interesting. But apps that can do handoffs, right, between the different platforms. That sort of famous example where someone's watching a movie on the screen, they leave, they get on the train, and now they're watching it on the phone, and it picks up right where they left off.
I mean, that's phenomenal if it works. If that actually happens.
That mythical...
That seamlessly.
Moment.
Yeah.
Having apps and games that can do that as well is very important. And Microsoft, will very soon have this ecosystem that is of device types, platforms that run on device types that are all the same core, the common Windows core. So it's a good story.
I mean, it's great for me, right? Because that's another platform I could put my stuff on. It's good
for users too. I mean, people make bets on this stuff. I mean, every time someone goes into a wireless carrier and buys a Windows phone, or every time someone goes into a Best Buy and buys a computer or a tablet or whatever, you're making a bet. It's not just money. It's like your time and your investment in things other than just money. It's your intellectual investment. It's your kind of moral investment. I mean, you're taking a stand in a way when you make these decisions, and you want them to pay off. When you see Apple kind of kicking ass in certain categories, and you think, why doesn't Microsoft have something like that? Your bet is not paying off.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff is getting fixed, right? I mean, the ability to easily, I got this thing I'm watching on a screen that's really small, but I want it up on that big HDTV. How come that isn't easy? You know, they're getting there, right? That's actually the Miracast thing I was talking about beginning. You don't want to feel like the decisions you make were bad, because when it comes time for the next version, the next phone, the next computer, if things didn't go well, you know, you have choices and you're going to start making different decisions.
I've always said that the future of Xbox may not just be the hardware, but it's the overall experience of Xbox and Xbox Live. We were talking about this, I mean, a couple of years ago where, I mean, how awesome would that be? I mean, now you're going to be able to kind of do it, right? Where you're going to be able to play a game on the Xbox and play it on the PC. It's going to be kind of intertwined with Windows 10.
That handoff capability, it's weird. It's kind of a streaming thing, right, for this version, for Windows 10, in one direction, but why not in other directions?
Yeah.
And eventually, why don't we just sort of virtualize it to the cloud where it doesn't matter what screen you're using. Yeah. You can play Xbox games.
I mean, right? on any device that you want. And that will be the future. I mean, that will happen. Yes. Because it's silly. They lose money on the hardware.
Right.
I mean, they don't make anything on the hardware. I mean, they hemorrhage on hardware.
By the way, that will require an Xbox Live Gold.
Yeah. Yes. That will. So. You know what? An Xbox, maybe a platinum. But how about a platinum? Maybe that's how they're going to do it.
Platinum subscription. Yeah, any screen will require
any screen. You could just play it on there.
That's fine.
I'm willing to do that if it's convenient.
$500 I spent on an Xbox One on day one, right? Actually $1,000. Yeah. But let's just say $500 per console. I mean, how many years have to go by before you've paid subscription fees that add up to that? I mean, it's 5, I guess.
5 years.
You know, five or more. I mean, Xbox Live Gold is really about $60, so it's more like 8 years or whatever. But that's a long time.
That's a very long time. Yeah. Right now it's $3. I almost bought one today, $349.
Well, I mean, but imagine it's also that kind of the purchase experience. You're not that anyone goes to stores anymore, but let's imagine you're in a store with your mother, and it's Christmas time. I'd like to get the new Xbox One. How much is it? $500. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Christmas time. I'd like to subscribe to the new Xbox Live Gold service, which will allow me to play games on any device, including the ones I already own. How much is that? $60. Yeah, you can get that.
Yeah.
Right? It's a much easier kind of thing to swallow from a financial perspective.
I think the problem would be the experience. And now, by doing that, we were talking about controlling the experience, right? Especially as for games. How is your experience on your mid-range laptop going to be compared to your higher end laptop that you paid $1,200 for? How are they going to be? How can they control that user experience to kind of be the same? They really can't.
Honestly, the high-end laptops, I mean, beyond style, and materials, you're almost looking at lots of storage, lots of RAM, bigger processors, that kind of thing, because you need it for some reason. There is a dramatic difference between like $200 HP Stream laptop and a $1,800 Samsung 15-inch Ultrabook.
How many people are going to try to virtualize, playing Xbox on their $300, $200 laptop?
Well, I was going to say in the middle of that, though, is a kind of a sweet spot, because that Core M kind of thing, a lot of people are like, well, Core M is not as powerful as a Core I processor. True, but that machine can be fanless, and if you're running Office and iTunes and Chrome or whatever, like most normal people, guess what? That works great.
Yeah.
And that's where the difference between that computer and an $1,800 Samsung or whatever, for most people, is negligible.
Paul, they're going to get those calls where somebody wants to play their Xbox on the computer and it's a Pentium 4.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
it says I don't have EAX extensions. How come I can't install Windows 12 or whatever we're on?
Windows 14. The future is here. All right, guys, that's it for this week. If you're watching live, you could stay tuned and watch us do What to Talk right after this show. Hey, if you want to help out the GFQ Network out, you want to help us out without spending any money, use our Amazon link.
Somebody's already made a Better Call Paul graphic.
I saw that. It's awesome. The Better Call Paul.
Which is pretty funny. That's
good. G Wheat on Twitter.
Yep, Garrett.
Garrett. He made it. Awesome. If you want to help us out, you could help the GFQ Network out by using our Amazon link, gfq.co/Amazon. Bookmark it. Whenever you buy something on Amazon, we get a tiny little credit from each purchase. And it really goes a long way, guys. It really does, because I need to get a new laptop, and I'm going to buy a Windows laptop. So maybe that'll encourage some of you to use that link. I need a portable production machine. And I've decided that I need to go with a Windows machine because I'm tired of waiting for Apple to kind of put out what I'm looking for. So whenever you buy something, use our Amazon link. I get a tiny little credit, and hopefully I get a laptop in a couple months with that. It goes right back into the network. You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarian. You can follow Paul at TheRot, therot.com, all things Paul Therot. Go there. Subscribe to the newsletter. Get a Paul Therot mug.
Win a mug.
Win a mug. 5 people winning every day if you sign up for the newsletter. And that's it, guys. We'll see you all next week on What the Tech.